Hello, fiber friends. Welcome to another episode of the Knit, Knot, and Weave podcast. My name is Dorothy, and I am coming to you from Columbia, Maryland. And this is just my little corner of the YouTube universe where I document and share my fibery adventures with you all. That is everything from knitting and crocheting and weaving to spinning and yarn dyeing. So if that sounds like it's just up your alley, sit down, grab a project, and let's get started. Well, hello, fiber friends. Welcome to another episode. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and spending some time with me in my living room. I so appreciate you guys returning each and every time I post a video. And if you are new, welcome, welcome, welcome. I so enjoy new people, and I hope you enjoy yourselves. So let's get started. First up, let me share what I am wearing. This is the Get Your Fade On shawl by Susanne Sommer. It was knit up, I'm pretty sure it was pre-COVID, so maybe 2019, 2020 is when we shut down. So I think it may have been 2019 that I knit this up. This is done all in hedgehog singles. The bright pink is her Sari Not Sorry colorway. And the other three, I believe were all potluck colorways. So they have no name to them. They were just, I guess, she was experimenting with colors. But this is a brioche and garter ridge shawl, and then it has a lovely I-cord binding. It was knit on the bias. It was, if you enjoy brioche knitting, this was a very enjoyable knit. It was enjoyable for me. I really enjoyed how she started with one colorway in the brioche section, and then in the next one you used two colorways, and then you worked your way into the the second color, and then you end with the final color. So I just happened to find 3 beautiful skeins of her singles yarn at a store in New Jersey. I think the store was Do You Knit, U being EWE. And we laid them out on the table, and I found 3 that coordinated well. And so this is what I ended up with. And this has been well worn, both inside my house when I want to just take the chill off, and outside my house when I'm going out for walks. So it's been approximately 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks since my last podcast, so I have a lot to catch you up on. I have no finished objects, but I have been working diligently on my parents' Christmas gift sweaters, my parents' Christmas sweater gifts. I don't know, however you want to say it. And 2 other projects to share. I have a couple of spinning projects that I finished up while we were on our knitting retreat at the end of, no, it wasn't the end of October. It was the very first weekend of November. It was right after I posted my last podcast. So without further ado, let's move on to whips, since I said I have no finished objects today. So first I will catch you up on the progress of my father's sweater. I am very, very pleased with my progress so far. It is currently living in my Scrappy Angel bag. It's her Erin model, but it's a taller model. And it's got my little gnomes. I just love my gnomes and coffee. And this is the Riddari Sweater. Just show you there we go. So that's the Riddari Sweater I'm working on. I am using the colors gray, black, white, and red. My father's favorite color is red. So here we have the main body of the sweater, which was finished the last time I podcasted. And I started and finished the sleeves. They are still attached, and not one sleeve, but both sleeves. So I am super, super excited about this. So now I'll put them on so you can see what it looks like. So unfortunately, my dad has lost a whole lot of weight since he retired. Not that he was a big man to begin with. I guess I should really say he lost a whole lot of muscle mass. Sad as it is. But you can see the sleeves are up here, and now I need to connect them. So my understanding for how this pattern works now is I will be connecting them to the body and then working all the colorway up to the neck. So this, I am hoping, will be done maybe by the end of Thanksgiving week, I hope. At least that's my goal. I want this one finished by Thanksgiving so that I can really concentrate on my mom's. And for those of you that are new, this sweater is being knit out of Let Lopey, which is what the pattern actually called for. So it's all Let Lopey yarn, just in different colors. The stitch markers I used to mark every row where I had to make an increase. And since I knit my sleeves two at a time, the increases were made at the same time, but this just allowed me to keep count of how many times I had increased and to make sure I had increased the amount between the amount of rows that the pattern calls for. So that was a lifesaver, because sometimes counting rows or finding the increased stitch is not always very easy. So that's my little trick. And that is going back in the bag. Next up, I'm going to share my mom's sweater that I just got, well, I shouldn't say just got started, but has been started within the last week, I'd say. It's in a huge Bags by Granny. This is her, I guess you could say these are elves, gnome elves all over it. It's a Christmas bag. I know it's a little early, but I figured this was a Christmas gift for my mom, so why not? And I am knitting the Kuutar, I think is what it's called. Let me check. So I am knitting the Kuutar Tee, which is a pattern by Sari Nordlund. I am using, it calls for a sport weight yarn, so I'm using Galileo Sport Weight from Knit Picks, which is a blend of 50% merino and 50% bamboo. And I am using the colorway, I think it's pronounced Calliope, C-A-L-L-I-O-P-E. I don't think it's Calliope. I think it's Calliope, but whatever. It's a beautiful, beautiful, bright raspberry-ish color. Of course, I forgot to put my needle stoppers at the bottom, but here it is so far. So that would be the front. And I have managed to get all the way through all of the lace patterning that's at the top of the sweater, not sweater, tee. So I'm pleased about that. So now basically the rest of this is just going to be all stockinette. I have, I think, maybe another inch or two to knit in stockinette before I can split for the sleeves. And that'll be nice because this will now become my easy knitting project, and my dad's sweater will now become my more complicated knitting project with color work. So when I get tired of doing color work, I can work on my mom's sweater, which will be nothing but knit. And when I have the time or the brain power, as I get caught in my yarn over here, when I have the time and the brain power, then I can work on the color work. So this was a fairly easy pattern to follow. I definitely used a chart. The charts are easier for me when I'm doing something like this because I had, I want to say 23 repeats of the chart all the way around. So, and because it was 16 stitches between, it was a 16 stitch repeat, I did put in stitch markers between every repeat, and that allowed me to make sure that every time I completed a repeat, I had the right numbers. There have been a few times where I'd get to the end and I'd be like, oops, I missed something. And sure enough, I went back and I either forgot to do a decrease or an increase. So that is my tip, but I'm sure everybody knows about that already. But if you are a new knitter and you need to do repeats of charts, I highly suggest getting stitch markers. I usually use these. I don't know if you can see them. They're just little circular ones, or where are they? I tend to use my little light bulb stitch markers when I have a lot of repeats to do, because I think for me at least, I don't know about other people, and I'm losing stitches because I forgot to put stitch stoppers on. Having a stitch marker with something dangling off of it 23 times around would drive me nuts. So I do very much like how this yarn is knitting up. Again, it's Galileo Sport from Knit Picks. And I bought this colorway because this is definitely a very good color for my mom. I think at the time they were having a sale on it too. So I just went ahead and got a 10-pack so that I would have more than enough. It would be the same dye lot and I wouldn't have to worry about it. And the original pattern was knit in a Malabrigo Sari, which is a, I want to say, I think it's a silk linen and merino base. I think that's what the Malabrigo Sari is. I figured this being a 50-50, it would give it that same drapiness that they would get from the Sari, not Sari. Oh God, it starts with an SU. Susura. And I know I tend to put an Italian spin on everything when I'm sanding it out. Susura, S-U-S-U-R-A. I will put it down here because I can't remember. And unfortunately, I do not have a paper pattern for this one because I downloaded it onto my iPad and I'm using Knit Companion. Trying to save those trees. So like I said, I'm very pleased. I've gotten through all the lace portion. I am actually going home this coming weekend, my little peanut of a niece is turning 16. I can't believe it. I call her my little peanut because she was the smallest baby I ever held. She was just 5 pounds when she was taken home, and I got to see her. And when I would put her up on my shoulder, she would chuck her legs under, and I felt like she was just like a little peanut on my shoulder. So she has been my little peanut for 16 years. Now she is very tall. She plays field hockey, and she's a mean bitch on the field. And I love her. So I don't think I have anything more to share on this, but like I said, I'm hoping to really focus on my dad's sweater and get that one done first. But again, we all know, or at least I know, or I'm learning that with ADHD, I need multiple projects to keep me entertained, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'm really, really hoping my mom likes this. Luckily, my family is very knitworthy. It is a long-standing tradition in my family. Well, I don't know. It was, I guess I don't want to say a tradition. It was a necessity. It was a necessity for the women in my family to learn this, because this is how they made clothing and tablecloths and things like that. I don't know what I'm saying. So I guess I should be very thankful that everybody in my family is very knitworthy. I'm sure I have shared that in past videos, and yes, that could be a blessing and it could be a curse sometimes, because they tend to ask for a lot of things. But now that I'm getting into sweaters, it's calmed down a little bit, and my 2 nieces that are in New York have both asked me to knit them something specific, but I told them both that they would not be getting them for Christmas this year, because they got sweaters from me last Christmas, and I think this Christmas it was time for Nonna and Grandpa to get a sweater. They were both very understanding, which is why I love them as well, because even for young kids today, they are very, very understanding and share. So those are my 2 major works in progresses. So next up, in my Fat Squirrel bag, which I lovingly call my mushroom butts, because I am quirky like that, I have my Musselburgh hat. I think that's how it's pronounced. And I am using Fiber Hustle yarn. This is Erin's BFL nylon based, 75 BFL, 25 nylon, in the So Clean, So Fresh colorway. It's a beautiful pink and purple colorway. You could see from my Tigger that last time I shared it, I was down here. And so I've knit approximately 2 inches since I last shared this. And let me, damn it. Sorry, I'm just moving the progress keeper up so that when I share it next time, we'll know where I started from. So I have this lovely little stitch marker. Yep, cat butt, meow. That is my beginning of round. I'm planning to, what am I knitting? I am knitting an adult medium. I'm planning to go almost as far as I can get on this one skein. I may try and save maybe about 10 grams or so to put in scrap blankets and stuff like that, because we all know I love scrappy things. Well, for those of you that have been around a while, I love my scrappy blankets. So this probably will not get worked on very much because this is not a Christmas gift and I need to get those sweaters finished. But I highly recommend, if you haven't, to go check out Fiber Hustle Yarn. And of course, their chip baskets are great too. And then lastly, in my Knit for Brains bag, again, another Christmas bag, Let It Snow, with lovely little gnomes all over it. I have the socks that I'm making for my brother-in-law for Christmas. And I'm using mustache yarn. And it's in the C3PO colorway. I know that she doesn't officially call it C3PO, but because of copyright issues. But here I am. I believe I am, and they match. Oh my God, they match so well. Of course, that helps when it's two skeins. I believe I should be able to mark for the heels at this point. I have to pull out my sock ruler to make sure that I'm at the right section. The toes, heels, and cuffs are being done in, I have no idea whose yarn this was, but it was more than enough in my bin of leftovers to make it work. So he should be happy. My brother-in-law Eric is a big Star Wars fan. I also bought her color, the mustache yarn colorway for R2-D2, and hopefully she will put out that line again in 2025, because I want to get a couple of others so that I can make him some socks for his birthday and stuff. But I have plenty of socks for myself right now, so I figure the family should get a few. So, and that is it for whips for this week. I have done some spinning. We went on a retreat and I brought both my spinning wheels. I brought my wheel and my e-wheel so that I could clear off some bobbins, because I had a lot of singles spun up and I was starting to run out of bobbins. So let me share what I have spun up with you guys. So this one I had shared, I don't think in my previous podcast, but probably a podcast or two before, but it finally got wet blocked. And this was a mix of two different bases. Two different sets of Rolags from different indie dyers. And let me see, did I put it on the tag here? I didn't. But between the two Rolags, there was Merino, Rambouillet, and Silk. And this was done in the long draw method. So this will make it, basically this does make it a fully woolen spun yarn, because I used Rolags and I did long draw. So there's lots of air trapped in here. This came out to be approximately a sport weight yarn, and there is approximately 278 yards in this. I love how the two colors mixed together, because one was, you could see one was a much brighter green with some turquoise in it, and then one was a more olivey green, but the two blended together so nicely. I think this will eventually become a hat if I can get it done in time for Christmas. This may be a hat for one of my brother-in-laws. So I smack myself in the face with my skein of yarn. So I was super, super pleased with how this one came out. If I have a picture of the two separate colorways, I'll put them up here so you could see how different they are compared to what they look like spun up together. And then next up is the Corriedale that I did share with you guys last time. I had spun half of it in a short forward, which made it a very smooth yarn. And then the other half, I spun it from over the fold in hopes of keeping the colorways a little bit more consistent. And it came out very interesting looking. It was a very Halloweeny-ish looking skein with lots of blacks and orange and greens and purples, but it looks like I almost don't see any of the excuse me, I almost don't see any of the purple really coming through, which is strange, but it's mostly blacks and greens. There's pops of oranges that come out. I don't think I took a picture of the two bobbins. I don't think I took a picture of the two bobbins before I plied them, but if I go through my phone and I find that I did, I will put them up here as well so that you could see how this one came out. This one is going to have a little bit of drape to it just because of the fact that but not a whole lot, because the skein flops over like that. So I have no idea what this is going to become. And I did not mark these, so I don't know how much yardage is in here. I think I forgot to do that on all the rest of mine. Bad spinner. So next up is, this was, I can't remember if I shared this one or not, but this was just recently wet set with all the rest of them. So, but this was a merino from Dragonfly Fibers. I think it was called something olive, but it was very much like a brown and green base. So it came out pretty well balanced in the end, although there are definitely sections as I look at it that probably could use a bit more twist in the ply. And again, I have no idea what this is going to become, but I will need to figure out the yardage before I can do anything with it. Now my next two are chain plied, and what that means is basically the fiber was spun all up onto one bobbin, and then I did the chain ply method to make it into a 3-ply yarn. So instead of having 3 separate bobbins to do a 3-ply, this is one bobbin, and you're basically making a very long crochet chain that then twists the 3 yarns together. So when you move from a 2-ply to a 3-ply or more, your finished yarn tends to be a little bit more round looking. And so here is another one. You can see it's got a little bit of sproing in it too. When I finished, I'm happy to say it's a nicely balanced yarn. This was, I think this was a fiber optic merino base that I purchased off my friend Patrick. and it was Autumn something. I'll find it and I'll put the name of the colorway up here. It's really a shame that that Fiber Optics no longer dyes fiber. But in doing a 3-ply, it kind of keeps the colors together a little bit better. I mean, there's an occasional area where it overlaps and you'll get some of that barber pulling effect when you're changing from one color to the next. But for the most part, you could see it almost looks like a very solidly striping yarn. So no clue what I'm doing with this one yet either. But it is a merino. You could see that it has some spring to it. Not as much as another yarn I'm going to show you, but very nice, very soft, very pleased with how this one came out. I still have a lot of practice to do when it comes to chain plying. And practice makes you better. I don't want to say perfect because nobody's perfect, but I really, really like how these colors came out. Although autumn color, these particular autumn colors are not me. They definitely don't work with my pale skin, but it will make something beautiful for somebody, I'm sure. So next up is a merino bamboo blend. Does that work? This was again another D-stash purchase that I got from my friend Patrick. The bamboo gives this yarn a very lovely sheen. Again, this was a chain plied yarn, so it's a nice it's a 3-ply, but it's not a traditional 3-ply because of the chain plying. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's beautiful pinks and pale purples. If I have enough yardage, I would like to make maybe a Sophie scarf or some sort of a little scarf out of this, because I originally had wanted to make a hitchhiker, but I'm pretty sure I don't have the yardage for a hitchhiker. But I'm very, very pleased with myself on this one because I think my singles, for the most part, was probably one of my most consistent spins. And I really cannot wait to knit this one up. I'm dying to see how this one looks knitted up. Again, the bamboo gives it a beautiful drape. So this is going to be quite lovely as a shawl. And then the last one is the first time I have spun on this base. It is from how do I say this? It's like Apothecary and Fairy. So Apothecary Fibers, I believe. And this is a baby South Down base, which I understand is a down breed sheep, and that baby South Down, or South Down in general, I'm told, I have not read it anywhere, I was told, do not felt very easily. So it actually makes a very good base for socks. But I didn't know that until after I had already started spinning this. And this was also spun long draw style. I split the braid in half and I did long draw, which means that there's a lot of air trapped within the spin itself. So it should make it also a nice warm item. It fluffed up significantly when I wet blocked it. Let me see if I can show you the difference, because I only have one nitty knotty. And so here they both are. So these are both spun up long draw. And you could see how I'm going to do this. So if I go down, you could see that there's almost about 4 inches that this blue yarn shrunk up compared to the green. So every yarn, when you go to wet block it or when you wet block it, will tend to shrink at least a little bit, but it all depends on the fibers that you're using. So you could see how the baby Southdown shrunk up a whole lot. And so it's definitely much more fluffy, very springy, got lots of spring to it. And this will hopefully turn into a hat at some point. Don't think it would be good for slippers since there's no nylon in it. Well, it doesn't felt, so maybe. But I don't know if that will prevent it from getting holes. If you know anything about Southdown, or if you've worked with Southdown yarn, non-superwash Southdown yarn, and you know, let me know. Because I think there's a good amount of yardage here that I'd be able to make probably a pair of slippers. But we'll see. And that is all I have for you in regards to whips and spinning. I do have some acquisitions to share with you. I have done a little bit of retail therapy since November 6th. And if I need to explain why, then I can't help you there, because we're not going to go into that on this channel. Not right now. I am still very shocked and a little heartbroken. Actually, very heartbroken. But it is what it is, and we all need to survive. So, moving on to acquisitions. First up, let me share that it's kind of going to go back and forth between acquisitions and life updates. So, since my last podcast, I had the knitting retreat for my knitting club. And I also attended the Frederick Fiber Festival, and I attended the Maryland Alpaca and Fleece Festival. So there's just a little bit. So when we plan our knitting retreat, I believe I've shared this before. I'm the organizer for Columbia Sip and Knit. And I have a small group that helps me organize, a small group within the group that helps me organize and plan the knitting retreat. This year we tried out a new facility that we liked. Most of us liked better than the old facility. I think there were a couple of as we say in the education field, pluses and deltas for each facility, but I think there were more pluses for this new facility than there were deltas. And usually when we do our retreat, we always try to do either visit a new yarn shop in the area, or do maybe like a little mini crawl of yarn shops, or we try to invite maybe a local dyer to do a trunk show at our facility. So this year we did not do a trunk show. This year we went to 2 yarn shops. One yarn shop was new to everyone. It was, what was it called? The Yarn Shop. I think that's what it was called, the Yarn Shop. And it was about 45 minutes north of where our facility was. It was an interesting shop. It was a two, it looked like it was two storefronts that were combined. So two little stores combined into one. They had a lot of yarns there that I have not seen in other yarn shops before. So that was fun and interesting. And well, let me share with you what I got. So first up, my eyes went straight to this because of all the colors. It is Knitting Fever Painted Mist. Look at all those colors. Oh my God. It is in the Dreamcatcher colorway, color number 322. And unfortunately, it was the only one. So this has, it's a blown, it's one of those blown yarns. So it has a little bit of a halo to it. And it has 273 yards. So, and unfortunately, did I say that already? It's a discontinued yarn. So I will probably be scouring Ravelry to see if I could get maybe at least one more skein of it. And then next up, I saw that they had Silky Wool from Elizabeth Lavole. And I have a bunch of this in black already in my stash. But since I'm working on Big Love, which is black yarn, and I'm working on the Outline Tee, which is also black yarn, I didn't think I wanted to knit another all black sweater. So I managed to find these two colors, and I thought they would make a neat combination with the black, and I could find a pattern that did maybe some color work. So I bought two in purple and two in green, and I love that combo. Although green does not look good against my face, I love the way it goes with the black, with the purple, and then I love the way these two go with the black. And then next up, I saw these from, and I apologize, I'm probably going to butcher this one as well. Charming Yarn and Wool, Gedifra. It's a metal tweed yarn from Italy. And I bought one in this black that has like a little bit of halo with some spots of color in it. And then I bought this silver one. And I haven't decided if I'm going to knit them, holding them together like a double thick yarn, or if I'm going to do something stripy with them. Let me see. There's approximately 225 meters. So what's that? Maybe 250 yards each. And then lastly, we came up with a few games to play on our retreat, and one of them, because we have a number of spinners, was a spinning competition. And luckily, I almost had to cancel it because I forgot to bring the fiber for the competition. But I found some fiber at the yarn shop, and so I purchased some. I bought this one for myself. It was the Malabrigo Noob in the Porcine, I don't know how to say that, colorway. And I love this colorway. I actually think I have almost a sweater's quantity in this colorway. So why did I have to buy it in the fiber? I don't know. But I did. And then I bought this one, which was, it's just called Unique Colorway. And I bought 2 of these for the spinning competition, but we only used one. And so I have another one to spin up myself. That is what I bought at that yarn store. Then some of us went to Magpie afterwards, or some of us went to Magpie instead of going to the yarn shop. And me and a couple of my friends, we ditched Magpie because we go there all the time. It's close by. Except when the folks that went to Magpie came back, they informed us that they were having a sale. They were having like a good sale on Lola Bean yarn that they had in their shop. They were also having a sale on Dream Cycle yarn that they had in their shops. And so a couple of us decided to go early Saturday morning. And I say early, only that we were there when the store opened at 11. So not that early. But we looked around, and unfortunately, I was not drawn to any of the spin cycle colors that were left, which was sad because it was a good sale. But there was a nice, very nice Lola Bean yarn. And this is on her, and I cannot read it right now. Maybe it's on the receipt. Lentil base. That's cute. And it is her base is lentil base, and I'm guessing the colorway is called Knuckle Sandwich. It's a merino silk boucle base. Isn't that pretty? It's a soft grayish purplish background with speckles of blue and pink. And I bought a sweaters quantity because I want to make just a simple, cozy sweater for the winter. I don't know why I think of boucle as like just a cozy, like maybe a Lento or something. No, Lento uses a DK weight yarn, but something where I could use this. Maybe if I have, no, I don't think I want to hold it with anything. But I just think of boucle as making a really nice, soft, squishy yarn. A nice, soft, squishy sweater. So I have 5 skeins of this. And this is 70% merino, 30% silk. So pretty. And that was all I bought from Magpie that day. And then Saturday night, we like to do a yarn exchange. Not really a yarn exchange, more of a white elephant type of yarn exchange. Everybody who wants to participate must purchase a skein of yarn that is between $25 and $30, or $20 to $30, whatever it was. And we put them inside of brown sandwich bags so that nobody can see what's in them. And then we all get numbers. And this year, one of our planning committees punched out these cute little pumpkins. And so I got number 2. And so the way the game is played is the person who picked number 1 goes up, picks a bag, opens it up, and needs to show their yarn around. And then the second person, excuse me, and then the second person can either if they really like it, they could steal the skein of yarn that the person before them opened up, or they can go up and open up a new bag. And it goes around like this. And over the years, people have realized just how fun stealing yarn can be. So that's what we call it. So if I had as number 2, if I had liked whatever the first person picked, I would have stolen from her, and then she would have opened up a new bag. Now, as we start going around, it gets more fun, because if I was, say, number 15 and I stole the yarn that number 5 picked, then number 5 can either steal a yarn from someone else if they see something they like, or pick a new bag. And this continues until a skein of yarn has changed hands 3 times. So once it has been stolen 3 times, the 4th person to get the yarn, it is theirs to keep. It is no longer available to be stolen from anybody else. And so this goes around, and then at the end, the person who has number 1 can either, if she doesn't appreciate the colors of the yarn that she has, she can steal from whatever skeins are still available, and then she would just exchange with the last person. The last person would not be, we would not continue stealing until we were done. It's once the first person is also the last person, they either decide, nope, I'm very happy with the yarn I have, game is over. Or they steal a skein, they switch it, and it's done. And this is the lovely skein I wound up with. It's Frogget yarn. It's their DK base, DK merino base. So it's 100% superwash merino, 231 yards. And the colorway is Amethyst Hour. We love playing this game at the retreat. Someone came up with it, oh gosh, probably 10 or 12 years ago, and we've played it every year on the retreat. So that was my lovely purchase. Not purchase, that was my win, I should say. So eventually this will turn into something else. Sorry, I'm just picking out hair. Then, right, I want to say, I think it was, it may have been the morning of the Frederick Fiber Festival. I think it was. So the Frederick Fiber Festival? Now I'm getting confused. No. So next up is the Frederick Fiber Festival. And I went. Of course I went. It's right up the street from me. So I originally went up. I originally had to go up Saturday because I had, no, what am I thinking of? Now I am super confused. Bummer. I am seriously losing my mind. Okay, well, I am at a complete blank. I went to the Frederick Fiber Festival. I went with 3 friends. I'm pretty sure I bought something. For the life of me, I can't remember what I bought. And I don't see anything that I bought that I don't know where I bought it from. if that makes any sense. So Ellen, Georgie, or Brenda, if you're watching, can you remind me what I bought at the Frederick Fiber Festival? Because I am seriously drawing a blank here. Oh my goodness. Normally when I make yarn purchases, I put them in a pile and I save them so that I can share them with you all, and then I put them away. I don't know what I did with I am pretty positive I bought something. I don't think I bought any yarn. Maybe I bought fiber. I can't. Getting old sucks. Okay, well, if one of my girlfriends reminds me, I will share it next time. But I am seriously drawing a blank, unless I happen to find it while I'm editing it. Editing Dorothy here to acknowledge that I had a very, very senior moment during my episode. I talked about Frederick the week before the previous episode. That's why I had nothing to show today. I'm such a dork. Was the Maryland Alpaca and Fleece Festival, and that was a 2-day festival, both Saturday and Sunday. Originally, I was scheduled, or I was planning to go on Sunday with some friends, but I remembered when I woke up Saturday that I needed to go up Saturday because I had spoken with Trisha from Yarn Jam while I was at the Frederick Fiber Festival, and I had a great conversation with her about her base and her fiber, the Shanico fiber. Hopefully I am saying that correctly now. I know somebody told me I was saying it incorrectly in my last podcast, so hopefully I'm saying it correctly. At least that's how Trisha says she says it, Shanico. And I think I won't go back to what I was saying because otherwise I'll forget. So Shanico yarn, and she created a podcaster series of her yarns, not her yarn, but her fiber base, because she watches several YouTubers who are also spinners, and she enjoys their podcasts very much. She enjoys how they talk about spinning, and so she created a set. She collaborated with those podcasters and created colorways that she named after their podcasts. And she had a pre-order for them back in September, which I had gotten one of the colorways that I really liked, but the other one got sold out. And so when I saw her at the Frederick Fiber Festival, I was very pleased that she was still doing the colorways. She says she will still do them for when she goes to festivals. She may or may not put it up on her website again at some point. I don't know. I'm not speaking to anything she had told me. What she did tell me was she still does the colors and she brings them to festivals. So she had the colorways from the festival. She had, and I'm sorry, I'm looking off at my computer here because I cannot remember the names of all the podcasters she collaborated with. So one was Marlene Knits. Another is Emily Curtis, and her podcast is called Gently. I'm sorry. Her podcast is called Gently Chaotic Knits. And I watch both of those. I think they're both very entertaining. The third one is called Ari Knits. I have not watched her, but I will be starting. And then the last two, one is Young Folk Knits, and then the other is Megan, and her podcast is called A Naughty Mess. And so I had purchased the colorway for Gently Chaotic Knits, which was a very, I I guess I would call it a very I don't want to say a traditional American colorway. It's got red, whites, and blues. It was very soft, very like a barny red, a barn red, not a barney red, a barn red and blues, and it was very nice. And then I really wanted the colorway of a naughty mess. I can remember her name. I can never remember the name of her channel. A naughty mess, which was purples and blues, which is my colorways as well. So she let me know that she was going to be at the Alpaca Festival, and that if I just let her know how many braids of fiber I wanted, she would, you know, put them aside for me and I could pick them up. And so Saturday I went specifically just to find her booth and pick up the colorways that I asked her to set aside for me. And I also, I was looking on her website and I saw that she had two, two ook colorways that looked very, very light in her Shanico sport base. And there is a pattern by Isabella Kramer. Sorry, I was picturing her face in my mind and waiting for her name to come out of my mouth. There is a pattern by, and here I go again, by Isabella Kramer that I really want to make as soon as I'm done with my parents' sweaters, but it called for a sport weight yarn. And so she had 3 of her sport weight base of an ook on one, like ook 17, and then 3 in another. Now online, they looked very, very similar. So I wasn't sure why they were separated. So I sent her an email asking her about them, and she said that one has more of a very, very light blush look to it, and the other had a very, very light gray tone to it. But she said that she would bring all 6 skeins with her, and that I could take a look at them when I come to the festival, which was super, super nice of her. And she, you know, and she also said that, you know, if you look at them and they, you know, they're not going to work, you know, don't feel obligated to buy them. So I went Saturday just so I could pick up those yarns, and I went up and I went zipping through the barns because I was, you know, if I had blinders on, I would have put blinders on, because I really just wanted to go and get that stuff and get back home, because I knew I was coming up the next day with my friends. Unfortunately, she happened to be in the very last barn, and it was a barn, it was not a new barn, but it had not been a barn that had been used at previous Alpaca Festival. So the Alpaca Fleece and Fiber Festival is also expanding. And I guess it's because it's the time of year that people really want to look for wools and stuff. So I managed to find their barn, and I managed to get my items. So now I will share with you what I had purchased at the Maryland Alpaca and Fiber Festival. So when I got to her, when I finally found the barn that Yarn Jam was in, I went in and she immediately remembered me, which I was very pleased with. And I immediately remembered her, of course. And so she took out the bag that she'd set aside for me, and I got to take a look at the 2 bases. And so when you see it, and I don't know how well it's going to show up here, I'm going to get my face out of the way to focus in on the yarn. So I don't know if it's coming across, but this one definitely has a more grayish tone to it, whereas this one has a more blushy tone to it. But in talking with her, I asked her, since they were both very, very light toned, if I over dyed them, would it really affect the colors as much if I dyed maybe if I dyed them both up to be a gray or something? and she didn't think that that the amount of colorway that's in these right now would affect it. So fingers crossed. So I bought 6 of those so that I would have more than enough for the sweater that I want to make by Isabella Crema. And I will put the name of the sweater down here because I do not have it off the top of my head. And then she put aside 2 braids of a knotty mess for me. And I'm very much looking forward to spinning it up. I have not spun up Shaniko yarn before, or Shaniko fiber, but it's, oh, okay, so here it is. It's a new breed, and it's a mix of US Merino and Rambouillet. So it's definitely got that softness and that floofiness of each of those bases. So that is Yarn Jam. And while I was at the Alpaca Festival, I had a lovely, lovely conversation with her in regards to attempting to do a startup and dyeing and things like that, because I can't remember if I shared this before. I have 6 more years in education before I have my 30 years in and I can retire. And so I am looking for a future career, and I am seriously thinking about yarn dyeing. I have been playing around with yarn. For those of you that are new, I have been playing around with dyeing yarn since we were in lockdown for COVID. I was getting very bored, and so I bought myself some pots from Facebook Marketplace that I could use for dyes. I bought myself bottles and bottles, or jars and jars of powdered dyes, and I just had a field day and I really enjoyed it. And then right behind Yarn Jam, there was the vendor called Alchemy. And I had bought, for those of you that watched my Rhinebeck video, I had bought some of their wool from Susan's fiber shop while I was there. And so I decided to take a look, since she was right there behind Yarn Jam. And lo and behold, I found some things to buy. They also carry the Shaniko base, except their base is 80% Shaniko wool and 20% mulberry silk. And this one caught my eye. I know, nice and bright, right? Does it match? Does it match? Anyway, unfortunately, they only had one of this one, but I could always order more. And I would probably not spin them together, but we'll see. I don't know why these fluorescents are hitting me this year, but I really like this one. I was thinking that maybe I will spin this one up on one bobbin and maybe spin black on the second bobbin, and then spin them and then ply them together. So we'll see. Then I was looking in their booth a little bit more, and I saw that they had a Tweedy Shaniko base. And so this is 89% Shaniko, 6% acrylic, and 5% rayon. And that's what makes those black Tweedy bits that are in there. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to spin up. And since there's no silk in this, and my youngest niece loves purple, she might be getting something out of this when it's spun up. And this one, she says, is 20.4 microns, so it's a super soft base as well. Or I saw this one too, but this is another Shaniko and silk base. Again, it's got those pops of that orange and pink that I like, with some blue and some gray. And I was thinking that I could possibly spin those up and ply those two together. So we will see what happens. And then when I went back Sunday with my friends, I did not pick up any more yarn. I didn't pick up any more fiber. What I did buy, I purchased 3 jars of homemade jam that were oh so yummy. The vendor that was making them allowed it, had bottles open, not bottles, had jars open, and some individual little spoons, and we were able to try the ones. So I got a fig one, which I am dying to get some goat cheese and have some fig and goat cheese snackers. Fig and goat cheese on a cracker as a snack. My brain just wanted to speed everything up, huh? Snackers. Then I bought a blackberry jam from him. And then the last one was a very interesting combination that I never had before. Blueberry and pineapples. And it actually tasted very good. So the fig and the blueberry and pineapple were 2 little jars, and then the blackberry was a bigger jar because that's all he had. And I was very pleased because it was yummy. Then I purchased 2 dryer balls, 2 wool dryer balls that are now in my dryer. And I bought a birthday gift for someone, and I cannot share it on here because she does watch this podcast. So she will get it when her birthday comes up, and I won't say when her birthday is coming up because then she'll know it's for her, and I don't want her to know it's for her. So, and that is all I got at the Alpaca Festival. Now, the Saturday of the Maryland Alpaca Festival is when Inglenook Fibers was having another update. So yeah, I placed an order. Okay, let me start this one again. So, Inglenook Fiber, for those of you that don't know, and I came across them when I came across them through my weaving guild, which is the Greater Baltimore Weavers Guild. And they had them at a sheep and wool festival a number of years ago, and they did a talk and about what they do, and their talk is online. If I can find that link, I will post it in the show notes below, and you can go and watch it yourself and learn more about them. But they are a Greek Orthodox Christian nuns that are from the Holy Nativity Convent, and they got into spinning, I think, about 20 years ago, and from there they really got into it, and they got into fibers and dyeing. And so I believe they are more known for their gradient, the way they do bats in a gradient style. And I have not had any of their bats yet. The colors just haven't spoken to me, but several of their braids have. So if you get on their mailing list, and this is the way to buy from them, you have to get on their mailing list. They will let you know when the next shop update is, and they will have all of the items that they are putting on their shop update. They will tell you that they are online now. They're not, you can't buy them, but they are online so that you can go and take a look at them. And so that's what I did. I went and I took a look at them. Like I said, none of the gradient bats that they created were speaking to me or to my color views or whatever, my color sense. But some of their braids did. And what I really like about Inglenook is their braids are not 4-ounce braids. They can be anywhere from 2 ounces if it's a very high-end fiber, like a cashmere and a silk fiber. And some of their braids can be as much as 6 ounces. And I like that they have that, because I feel like, for me as a new spinner, I'm not thin. I can't spin thin enough to actually get enough. I don't know how to say this. A 1 4-ounce braid so far has not really given me enough to do a decent sized project with. Like, I can make a hat, or I could make, a little mini scarf, but I haven't made enough to make like a hitchhiker shawl that requires approximately 500 yards. Now, I know hitchhiker, you can always just bind off at the last point, but still, what I'm getting at is I've not been able to get 350 to 400 yards out of one braid. But I think with a braid of maybe 5.5 to 6 ounces, that might be a little bit more possible. Yes, it's a little bit more pricey as well, because you're getting more, but I'm okay with that. At least I don't have to buy 2 whole braids, unless I'm looking to make something specifically larger, but I've not gotten there yet in my spinning. And so I went online and I looked at the colorways. I knew which ones I really wanted, and I would go back and, I would try to get maybe one colorway in one base, and a different colorway in a different base. And I thought this was a neat way to also try and utilize mixes of different bases to see how they would work together without me having to try and mix the bases myself, if I can even get my hands on some of the breeds that they use in their combinations. Wow, that was a long discussion. So let me just share what I wound up buying. So they did have they had a very interesting blend that they did. So I did do one gradient, but this is not one that these are not colors that they created on their, how do I say this? I'm not sure how they did it. But it was their Nebula Blend series. And so it was all based on different points of the universe. And so I bought the set. I bought 2 sets. One was the Hubble set and one was the Web Sampler set. So they are 1 ounce of each color. And here are the 2 sets. So at some point, I want to lay all these out and try and put them in some sort of a fade order, or an order that would make sense for them to go in, and then probably spin them up singly and do a chain ply, so that I could keep so that I can keep the order of the colors. Now, the base is what really interested me. It's 40% merino, 25% Zwarble, 15% gray Gotland, 10% Tussa silk, and 10% tribal nylon. And so this one, it's 4 ounces. It's 1 ounce of each colorway. And the colorways, let me see if I can read and do this at the same time. It looks like this one was Rosette. This one might be Butterfly. This one is Cat's Eye. And this one is Orion. Yep. Now this one is a 5 ounce set, which I'm probably not going to be able to get right. I think this one is Iris. This one is Helix. This one is Eagle. This one is Lobster. And this one, this one with pink and orange, is Horsehead. So that's one set I got. Then they had this beautiful base of 50% merino, 25% Mongolian cashmere, and 25% Tussa silk. And this came in a 2-ounce set. I'm sorry, this came in a 2-ounce braid, and this is called Thistledown. Isn't that pretty? It's like a lovely lavender base with some spots of turquoise, a little bit of burnt orange. There's a little bit of an olivey green in there. Again, this is Inglenook Fiber. And I bought 3 of them. I'm hoping this spins, hoping when I get a little bit more consistent and a little bit more finer in my spin, that I could spin this up to make a nice shawl for my mom, or at least a nice decent kerchief. And I picked up, this is a 6-ounce braid. There was a, well, let me get through this first, one at a time. So this is 85 Polworth, 15% Tussa silk. And the colorway is Orion. I'm sorry, the colorway is Onyx. I can't read today. And you would think it would be totally black. So I'm not sure if all the colors are going to come through. Oh, it is. So you can see there's black with hints of brown and purple and blue. I just think this is going to be stunning when it's spun up. It almost looks like that blue is like a halo on the black. And then lastly, this braid is 5.6 ounces, and it is a mix of 30% Manx Lawton, I think that's how you pronounce it, 30% Polworth, 30% mulberry silk, and 10% Firestar. And this one is called Stone Crop. And this one is a little bit out of my color zone, but something about it attracted me. Those pops of color over the gray. I think this is just going to be so beautiful spun up. There was one other base that I had in my cart to buy, and it was called Denim Jacket. It was a stunning, stunning variations of blues. And I wanted 2 of them. I had 2 of them in my cart to purchase because I really wanted to. They were just gorgeous. And I got cart jacked before I could even get to my cart. I was so mad, but I spent enough. It was fine that I didn't get those extra 2. I'm good with that. So I need to start reining in my retail therapy. I do have some advents coming in for the month of December, but I will do a different episode for them. In the meantime, if you are only here for the nitty goodness, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed your time in my living room. And if you are done, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up. If you would hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a video. For those of you that want to know about what's been happening for the last 3 weeks, stick around. So like I said, the very first weekend of November, I had our knitting retreat, and it was a very nice facility. It was a motel style facility, so everybody got their own room, their own separate room. Each room had its own bathroom in it. Every room, I think with the exception of one, every room had 3 beds. I think one room had 4 beds in it. So we had the largest crowd for our retreat that we've ever had. We did not force anybody to do 3 people in a room. Everybody was just required to find one roommate, but a couple of folks decided they wanted to triple up. And if they want to triple up on their own, that's great. We can open up more spots to other people. But otherwise, we normally cap out at 30. That would have been 2 people to a room. We wound up having 34 or 35 this year. Now I can't remember. So we start, the planning crew goes up Thursday night. We organize the meeting room so to our liking, so that we can all either see everybody or just, configure the room as best we can. Now, the meeting room was on the 2nd floor. It had all glass windows around it. It was beautiful. We had lovely amount of natural light to work in during the day. At night, we were a little concerned because we thought with that much window, we didn't know how well the light was going to be at night, but it was great. The lights were bright enough that we were able to knit at night in there, and it was lovely. We were all in one room. There was a second meeting room off to the back. It was much smaller. That is where we kept all of our snacks and our drinks and our Keurig for those that drink coffee all day long. And we had a blast. People start showing up Friday morning at 10. Friday, we went to the yarn shops and we did some shopping. Friday night, we were supposed to have a fire pit, but unfortunately, Montgomery County was under a fire watch. The conditions were just too tempting, very, very dry and very windy, so we were under a red alert, which means we could not have a fire. If the alert changed, they would have done a fire for us Saturday, but unfortunately, we were still under a red alert for Saturday, so we had no fire this year. So lots of graham crackers, marshmallows, and Hershey bars went home with people. Friday night, we think Friday night is when we hosted our contests. So we took all of our cues from Rhinebeck. We did a knitting contest with chopsticks. We did a crochet contest to see who could crochet the fastest or the most in the amount of time. And then we did a spinning competition where who could spin up their fiber the fastest. But there were stipulations. This could not be, we were not looking for art yarn. We were not looking for, super bulky weight. So people were not allowed to just, throw handfuls of fiber through the wheel and say, I'm done. It had to be at their normal spinning where they're comfortable. And since I know all the folks that were spinning, I knew that most of them were comfortable at between a fingering to a worsted weight. And I think more of them were a little bit more down on the sport, around the sport weight. So it was a lot of fun. I took some videos of all the competitions, which I will include at the end for you guys to enjoy. Saturday night, we had our white elephant, and we had lots of fun doing that. The food at the facility was wonderful. They were very good about making sure that they had options for folks who have celiac disease, which means that they They must have gluten-free. It is not a dietary preference. It is a dietary necessity. We had, and we also had one with, I think a dairy allergy. So they were very good about making sure that they had food for these people. They didn't have it out. They had it in certain spots so that other folks wouldn't get it. Then we made sure that the folks who needed it got it. The food was I thought it was very good. We had dinner Friday night. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner on Saturday, and we had breakfast and lunch on Sunday. It was all very yummy. They were very gracious. The times were fairly decent. We might try and see if we can get a little bit later on the breakfasts next year, but since we do lunch at 12, I don't know how that's going to work, because normally breakfast was at 8, but we have a lot of late sleepers when we do our retreat. The following weekend was the Maryland Alpaca Festival, which I basically shared everything that we did. We had lots of fun. What else has happened? Well, we all know that the election happened, and I've been doing a lot of retail therapy. I don't know how you guys are all doing. Hopefully you are all doing well. There seems to be a lot going on right now with our politics and our morals, and what else? Is there anything else? This weekend I'm going up to New York because my niece is having her sweet 16. So I am going up with my oldest niece, who lovingly just got engaged, and her wedding is set for June of 2025. So we have lots of exciting things happening in the family. So we've decided that we're going to drive up together, me and my niece Gabriella. Now Gabriella is my oldest niece. Then comes her sister Juliana. Then comes my peanut Maya, and then comes her little sister Priya. So I have 4 nieces, never been a mother, but I'm the best aunt. It's okay. My other sister doesn't watch this, so she can't consider herself the best aunt. But so Gabby and I are going to drive up Saturday. I think she is going to visit another cousin and ask them to be a bridesmaid in the wedding. And I believe she has a friend that she's going to go see in New York City for the same purpose. And then my niece Maya is having a party for all of her friends Saturday night. And then Sunday, my sister Stefania is having a gathering for the family. So I'm super excited to be seeing everybody. It's going to be what we lovingly call a drive-by weekend, as we'll be driving up Saturday and driving home Sunday, because Monday both Gabriella and I need to go to work. And I think that about catches you guys up with my life, if you stuck around to see it. With that, I am going to say goodbye. I hope you are all doing well. I hope you are staying sane. With the holidays coming up, I hope you are checking in on folks. Remember, this can be a tough time of the year for some folks that may not have family. So be sure to check on your friends and your neighbors. Remember, this is a time of thanks. So be sure to give thanks to whoever has been helping you out, whether it be family, friends, maybe a coworker. Without further ado, I am going to say goodnight. So, ciao, ciao. Love you guys.